Today on Locked On Rockies, another day, another arm added to the Rockies rotation. It doesn't make them a Cy Young best in the league rotation, but it raises their floor and puts them in a better spot.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 12th day of February in the year 2026. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And today we're going to talk about the Rockies adding another arm to their rotation. And while it's another veteran arm, which helps the team out, what does that mean for top prospect Chase Dolander? We're going to talk about that and more, plus get your comments and reactions to the Rockies' moves so far this week. A busy week for the Colorado Rockies as pitchers and catchers report today. The action getting underway. I believe it's today. I believe it's either today or Friday. I can't remember. But pitchers and catchers reporting this week. Baseball is back. How about those spring training hats, by the way? Pretty rad. By the way, I am, of course, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been bringing you this daily Colorado Rockies talk for over 5 seasons now. That means a few hundred episodes of you and I talking Rockies baseball here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Find us, be part of the show on YouTube. Be part of, like I said, at that Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. We dive into it all the time. Love hearing your takes, your thoughts here on the Rockies. Not used to this many moves, at least what it feels of late, right? I mean, obviously, it's been an off season that's had more news and a lot more headlines than usual. And headlines for us Rockies fans are different than headlines on the major league scale. But the Rockies add Jose Quintana, and it's going to be another move that, hey, big picture doesn't move the needle necessarily to that contender. But it establishes your rotation. I've seen a lot of people say this on their reaction online. It raises the floor, and I think that really is the best way to summarize this, because it's not like Cy Young. It's not the big crazy deals, but this rotation should ideally perform better than it did last year. Coors Field will always be a factor for new arms. Will always be a new factor for arms. But think about how many young and inexperienced pitchers the Colorado Rockies turned to last year. Simply saying, you might not be ready, but we need you to pitch. It's go time. We're going for it. These are all guys that should be decent. Saying will be. I got to catch. I'm trying with especially this month, because it's burned into my brain. Like I said before, I was too excited. I was too eager about former Rockies or Rockies veterans returning to the rotation and being successful. And we all saw how that panned out last year. This year, I don't want to say things with certainty, because there's still so much up in the air. But statistically, the people that the arms that the Rockies have brought in were better last year than what the Rockies had in their rotation. And throughout their careers, and in the case of Jose Quintana here, he's a 31.7 WAR player here. He's pitched over 2,000 innings. This is a guy that was on a playoff roster, a playoff team last year, and a guy that's been a key contributor here for a few seasons now. 170 innings in 2024 with the Mets, 131 innings with Milwaukee last year, 165 innings the year before that in 2022 with 2 teams, with Pittsburgh and St. Louis. This is a guy that you look at as stability. A little bit. It's and another guy with a lot of with a deep pitch mix, right? So I just see this as all right. I know I'm not blown away by the move. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh wow, everything is fixed." But I am sitting here and saying that's the right move. A 1-year deal that raises your floor and helps out your rotation with a guy that's had a strong history of success. And a guy, I mean, and when you're talking now with the arms that you've added with Lorenzen, Sagano, and Quintana, you're looking at three guys. If they're performing well, you have 3 trade chips now. You have 3 trade chips for people that could be looking for veteran pitching at the trade deadline, all on 1-year deals, and then you can go and move into your give time to your younger guys. Give starts to the younger guys, because we're going to talk about how this impacts especially Chase Dolander here in segment number 2. But these are all guys that you're not overcommitting to. They are they put your rotation in a better spot, and they should be good enough to keep you in ball games, or at least eat enough innings for you that your bullpen doesn't get so overworked. And the pitching rotation and just the pitching approach for the Rockies works a little bit more how it should. And instead of it being so much leaning on the bullpen because the starting rotation gives up so many runs and gets blown out and gets knocked out of games before the 5th. Hopefully, these guys are able to keep the game stable, keep the Rockies in these games till the 5th and the 6th, and then you go from there with the bullpen. A little bit here from Thomas Harding on the signing of Quintana here. The veteranness the Rockies are starting in 2026 with is normal around the game, but that was not the case last season when Colorado finished 43-119, tied for the 3rd worst record in the modern era, and posted the highest starter ERA, 6.65, since ERA became an official stat in 1913. Because of injuries and general ineffectiveness, at times last season, lefty Kyle Freeland was the only starter beyond his rookie season. This year, the Rockies have signed righties Michael Lorenzen, 34, Tomoyuki Sagano, 36, and once official, Quintana, who in 100 starts since 2022 has achieved a 3.53 ERA that ranks in the top 40 among any pitcher with at least 300 innings in that time. Add to those the longtime rotation member Freeland, righty Ryan Feltner, and looking for a rebound from back and right shoulder issues last season, Ryan Feltner is looking for that. Sorry, I didn't appreciate the comma there. And manager Warren Schaefer revealing Wednesday, righty Antonio Senzatella, who finished last season in the bullpen, but could undergo a revival should an expansion of his pitch mix work. I'll believe that one when I see it. Also competing for the rotation will be 2 righties who are rookies in 2025. Rookies Chase Dolander, the 9th overall pick in the 2023 MLB draft, and Tanner Gordon, who was the Rockies' most productive starter in the final months. Just a little bit more about Quintana here. In 3 of the last 4 seasons, Quintana has had an era of 4 or below ERA below 4 and 130 or more innings, with the other season being a 3.57 ERA over 75 2/3 innings in 2023. Quintana has appeared for 8 teams over 14 seasons. There was a period early in his career with the White Sox when the Rockies, then building towards their postseason appearance in 2017 and 18, were reported to have engaged in trade discussions under then manager Jeff Bridich. So there you go. Let's see here. Just a little bit more backstory here from Purple Row, from Renee Descartes. Just some more numbers here for you. 23 starts, 3.96 ERA, and according to Baseball Savant, Quintana has a 5-pitch arsenal: sinker, changeup, curveball, 4-seamer, and slurve. The sinker being his most used pitch there at 42%. In 2025, Quintana had a 16% strikeout percentage, a 9% walk rate, and a 43.3% ground ball rate. All things that if you're the Rockies, you are looking for. Don't walk a lot of guys. Strike out guys when you can. Keep the ball on the ground. That's usually something the Rockies have believed in mightily in their time. And again, this is I hope that he can basically recreate last year. That's my hope for all of these guys, is do what you did last year, and I'm on board with it. a 3.9, a sub 4 ERA over 130 innings, 89 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.29. A lot of them seem to have that whip around 1.3 on average, but again, I think what we really learned from last year was not having successful veteran pitchers in your line in your rotation is going to cost you going through the season. If you don't have guys that can reliably eat innings and go into the sixth, and maybe they give up 4, but it's not a total blow. The doors are blown out. The game's over. You're down big early, like we saw so many times last year. I think we're going to see why it's so important to have a mixture of these types of guys that will help the Rockies, especially as we've brought up multiple times with the talent that the Rockies are seeing right away to start the season. You need guys that you don't have a lot. You don't have time in terms of wins and losses and falling way behind and falling out of contention if you're the Rockies. If those young guys are just getting, can't hit the zone or are leaving things in the middle of the zone and being punished. These veteran guys need to come in and they need to do their job of stabilizing things. Might not always be pretty. They're going to give up runs. They're going to give up home. They'll give up some stuff, but keep that ERA below 4. Eat some innings, and that's a good sign for the Rockies there. In case you are curious here on just home run totals, 18 home runs allowed for Quintana last year, the 22 the year before that. So that might be another thing to factor in. It's especially with, like we said, the NL West rolling into town a lot at Coors Field. We'll see how much of an impact giving up more home runs are, but this is going to be another test of the pitch mix and see how he's able to utilize and use those pitches with the altitude. All right, let's put a bow on at least reacting to the news. Again, I think the closing thought on it here is I like the move. It's not fully turning everything around, but I like the 1 year, not a long commitment. Let's bring him in. Let's see what happens. Let's drum up a little bit more competition now for that 5th rotation spot. And let's bring in some guys that can get us outs, that can be effective, that are up for and willing to take on the challenge of Coors and to work with us as we build our new approach, and bring in some veteran mindsets, and bring in some veteran guys that can work with their younger arms, that can work with these guys during spring, that can talk with them and talk about their experiences and talk about how they, what they've learned from their different from their time. So solid floor raising move. And that's what the Rockies need to do. You need to raise the floor. It still ain't going to be pretty. There will still be a lot of losses, but you just can't be as bad as you were last year. And by doing moves like this, that raises the floor. But it also puts pressure on Chase Dolander, but that might be a good thing. Let's talk about it coming up next. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. Local, important thing there. So they're going to know what's going on in your area. There could be differences depending on where you live, what state you're in. All that's important. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. Yes, that's $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local. That's TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Back at it here for segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Get the show ad-free. Be part of the Everydayers Discord when you join the Everydayers Club. Only $5 a month, $50 a year. That's going to get you ad-free Locked On Rockies and access to the Everydayer Club Discord server where you can chat all sports. There's channels for all the Colorado sports where you can dive in with all the sports there. If you want to talk to the host from the other Colorado sports, as you're following the Nuggets and the Avalanche through the middle of the season, trying to see what the Broncos are going to do this offseason. All that action and more available to you for just $5 a month. Check it out. LockedOnRockies.supercast.com. All right. Before we dive into segment 2, I want to keep putting out our call for your favorite Rockies lineups ever. Make sure you're putting them in the comments here. I'm going to keep note of them. Probably going to get to them next week now. I believe we got our Locked On Padres crossover scheduled now for tomorrow. So be sure to stay tuned for that as we catch up with Javi and what's going on with our quote-unquote rivals in the NL West there. But anyway, let's dive into what I think is it might sound like a bad thing, but could be a good thing. It will not be the end of the world if Chase Dolander starts the year at AAA. And I say this because I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he's evaluated after the spring with the new look front office. What do they look at Chase? What do they take from last year? What does Schaefer take away from last year? What does he see from spring? And how does that influence, especially when you're looking at the fact that now you have 4 rotation spots filled up by veteran arms, 3 of which that you've acquired through free agency on major league deals. These aren't minor league deals that the Rockies are signing these guys to. These are major league deals. So the easy answer would be Ryan Feltner, due to his experience, gets that last spot. Tanner Gordon could also be a candidate here. And Chase Dolander is going to be there. Now, I've saw there could be a keep 6 guys on the 6 starters on the roster. I don't think the Rockies will go to a 6-man rotation. They might keep some of these guys, but he needs to pitch, right? And he might part of last year, if the Rockies weren't so desperate for arms last year, I don't think we see Chase as early in the season, and we might not see as much of the struggles. Now, maybe he needed to. It's always interesting, right? Because I think we touched on this too about you need to get that taste of MLB action. You need to experience what it's like to play ball at the major league level. And in a way that you need to have that humbling effect, right? Of like, this is what it takes. This is what it's like here. But you can't ruin the confidence of guys. And I just wonder what was the confidence and what was the mental side of Chase Dolander going through a season like last year. You're not winning, you're not having the success that you wanted to see on the mound. You're pitching in a new environment. You're losing, and a lot of these high draft pick cases, you're losing a lot of games which you haven't done a lot of in your career. What did the I don't think they did, but what did that do to the confidence of Chase Dolander? If he doesn't break camp with the team, he can't. It's not like he's not going to be able to fine tune and prepare and get ready at AAA and make his way up onto the roster. We were just talking in the first segment how these guys could turn into trade chips here if he's able to, and there's also always injuries as well. This could be a situation where he builds up, he gets himself really into good shape, he gets himself ready to go at the start of the season at AAA, and then he comes up and he finishes the season with the Rockies after the Rockies trade one of these pieces away or steps in and fills in with due to an injury. because I think Ryan Feltner is really going to be coming in and saying, okay, this has got to be my job. I need to make sure I really prove and demonstrate that that spot is mine. I am here to earn that. And I think that's part of that competition they're trying to create there. But I think part of the evaluation of Chase Dolander was he was leaned on earlier than he was ready for. He didn't have as much time to develop at the minor league system before the Rockies were putting him in, going against the NL West and going up at Coors Field. Now is his opportunity to have a solid spring, to show what he's learned and what he's changed and what he's adapted to and worked on in the offseason, and make that case. But if he doesn't break camp with the team, I'm not sitting here saying I'm worried. Whoa. We're putting him on bust alert here. In fact, I'm sitting there and saying let's let him build on this momentum here. Let's let him build on the spring. Keep him getting in that solid game action. Keep him getting some reps. You don't want to waste too many bullets at the minor league level, but with these signings, you're putting yourself in a position where you don't have to lean on the inexperience this year. So let these guys prove it and establish themselves at the minor league levels and force their way into the lineups. It's not going to be the end of the world if we let Chase start the season in the minor league system to develop a little bit more. On the flip side, if he has such a darn good spring and he makes a case for it, and he makes it really difficult and they're sitting there scratching their heads about what they're going to do, that will be an interesting decision, and it will be a test of what the Rockies it'll be a test of Warren Schaefer, really, right? And his ability to evaluate the players. Same with the general manager and the new front office. But for me, a Chase Dolander start to the season in the minor leagues is not a reason to panic. It's not a moment where it's not something I'm going to sit here and say, oh no, I'm completely worried about this. It's just the Rockies. The Rockies addressed their need. They could not go into the season letting their rotation be in the same spot it was in, so they addressed it. Here's a little bit more about the rotation from Purple Row here from Skylar Timmons. After a rough year in 2025, the rotation had plenty of questions heading into the new season. Kyle Freeland will surely lead the group, but it was a little less certain after that. The team solidified the rotation with the signing of Michael Lorenzen, who is eager to take on Coors Field, and also signed Sagano and Jose Quintana yesterday, with those four filling up the rotation. That leaves roughly one more spots up to grab for camp. It stands to reason that Ryan Feltner will be the one to win the spots. Injuries limited Feltner to just a handful of starts in April last season, preventing the Rockies from seeing if he could build up his excellent second half in 2024. Can he return healthy and be a significant boon for the rotation? Chase Dolander made his MLB debut in April and had an up and down season. He performed well on the road, but struggled at home, as is to be expected from a first-year pitcher at Coors. His storyline will be one to follow during the season with the revamped coaching staff. Can the 2023 ninth overall pick take a big step forward in 2026? Tanner Gordon will also be up for starting a rotation spot after figuring some things out near the end of 2025. So that the questions will remain there. I think that this is just it's another moment for a young Rockies player to step up to the occasion and prove it. Whoever earns that last spot in the rotation is going to earn it, right? I mean, I know how simple it is to say, but they're going to earn it by showing that Feltner is back from injury, that Chase Dolander has got this control. He's got this new control. He's got this new pitch that's working out really well. Or Tanner Gordon, is looking sharp as well. Spring is not going to be the most the most conclusive answer for these guys, but it is their moment to earn that spot, and I think it does trickle down to making them earn it. I think is going to be a good competition in spring for these guys. But overall, I think Feltner's gonna get it just due to the experience and the little bit more familiarity with I guess Schaefer maybe. Was Schaefer even really doing stuff in April? I don't know. He'll be in an interesting spot as well, as it's all new evaluators making the calls for the Rockies this year. Who do you think gets the 5th spot? Would you be worried if it isn't Chase Dolander? Let me know in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section down below. That's where we're heading to finish out the show. Coming up next. Back at it here for segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes, just like all of these folks here. Mitchell says, I'm happy with it. This is in regards to the Rockies adding Sagano here. I'm happy with it. His experience gives younger guys time to develop in competition and still makes our floor higher. With Quintana now as well, I'm getting more hopeful for a 63-99 season. That would, I mean, I know how it would be a really big swing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if these moves are enough to really beef it up that much. But I think it at least makes you feel like that world is possible. More possible than we once thought. Jim says, I guess as far as Sagano goes, it all depends on how he does in spring training and in the month of April. Is this to be action? Well, no. I mean, they're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be able to flip all of these Rockies arms. But I don't know if under April, that might be a little too soon there. Is this the actual beginning of the end for KB? Because as much as I felt bad for him in his health situation, there seems to be no reason to keep him around unless you were to make him a coach or give him a desk job. Let's see. I mean, it's complicated with that, man. I don't know. There's gotta be a reason to keep the possibility alive. I really don't know, especially when you're maybe something with the contract or with wanting to eat the money or not. Who knows? But it is intriguing there. It is. I'm with you, Dustin, a little bit. Chris Bryant saga is getting old. I tend to forget he's in baseball anymore. I like 2 veteran arms in the lineup. Others stated buys young arms more times. Yeah, I mean it's 3 now. It's three veteran arms in the lineup. 4 if you count Kyle Freeland now as well, which you should count Kyle Freeland as one of those. It is a complete different spot, despite the fact that the Rockies started last year and went into last year with it was 3 or 4 veteran guys, but obviously Senza and Marquez returning from injuries and hadn't been pitching for a while, so not the same case with guys that have been pitching, haven't been missing significant amount of time due to injuries there. I forget how just bad those injuries were to Marquez and Senzatella sometimes. I mean, those were, especially Senza, just some brutal stuff when it comes to injuries and recovering and getting back there. For the folks that have dropped their lineups, thank you for that. We will get to that. Felix says, veteran pitcher, give our young cats a chance to develop. Yep. That's that. I think so far that seems to be the common take there as well. But this is a positive sign. I think these moves, these positive signs for the Rockies, they're not. It's not like we've said before. The needle ain't moving towards competition, but the floor is raising, and this should put the Rockies in a better spot. But with what do we bring up all the time when we're talking hopium around here? They got to perform on the field. They got to show us that they can do it in the game and on the bump. But I like Rockies transaction talk. It's fun when the Rockies make moves in the offseason here. It's fun when the Rockies no matter get in on changing things up, shifting things around, and they have certainly done that so far this offseason. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, we got you covered with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs podcast, free and streaming and on YouTube as well. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.